Well, today we've got about the greatest lineup of stars that anyone could ever have on the show. And right now I'd like to introduce them to you. Over here on my left, starting out with Mr. Eddie Dean, Shirley Renfro, and one of the greatest directors and stuntmen of all time, Yakima Canutt.
Thank you.
And the beautiful Peggy Stewart, Tony Crusoe, Monty Hale, Neil Summers, Kirk Allen, Max Harrison. It's really great to have all you boys down visiting with us today. Eddie, what have you been up to?
Oh, I've been working. I work all the time. I only live for tomorrow, today and tomorrow. Yesterday is just something that you think about once in a while.
Yeah, we was all looking for you down here this morning. You come sneaking in the afternoon. So we...
I slept late.
Oh, you slept late,
I had a big party last night. Well, I slept quite late, but I'm glad to be here and to be with this great congregation of so many of my dear friends here. Sunset, you're thought a lot of in the business, and it's a pleasure to come down and be with you and with your friends and all of our friends, and you just keep pitching, man, because you got it.
Thank you, Eddie. You know, it's wonderful to have this man down here, you know.
Yakima, I've got some stories I'll tell you something.
Yak directed my first Western, and man, we had an awful lot of fun on that, didn't we, Yak?
Yes, we did.
We certainly did. We had a lot of fun on that. And also over here is another man that's very famous over there as Superman. It's Kirk Allen. You know, we had him on one of my westerns one time. And the son of a gun stole my horse.
Well, it's funny how they do that sometimes.
I got better as I went along.
Well, I kind of brought my bodyguard down here, Tony Crusoe, today, so he's going to kind of look out for things.
Well, I'm the only black hat here, I know. You're wearing my hat, you know.
Yeah, I stole it from you.
I guess so.
Hey, Tony, you've done so many pictures of different things and so many different kinds. How about how did you start out into the show business?
How did I start? I was going to be an actor from the first time I ever thought about doing anything. I was going to be an actor.
Okay.
And I started in Long Beach, as a matter of fact, in California, Long Beach, California, in a stock company. Right after I got out of high school, it was under canvas, and they did a new show every week. I did 104 shows in 2 years' time. So that's how I started. And good, bad, or indifferent, I don't know if any of you ever played stock, but I would do a heavy one week, the juvenile the next week, the character man the next. It's what they call general business. And that's where I got started. That's how I got started, anyway. Then I went into the pictures.
Out of all the pictures you've done, Tony, I've seen so many of them. Which one of them did you enjoy doing the most?
Which one?
That'd be that's a tough question. I should not have asked that. I know he enjoyed them all.
Exactly. I enjoyed every one of them that I worked on. I really did. I really did. I'm one of those gregarious guys that I get on a set and everybody's my friend. Everybody's my friend. And I love making pictures.
Oh, that's great. Old Neil over there, he's worked on that Fall Guy and all those pictures. I bet you got a few stories you could tell, Neil.
Yes, sir. Luckily, I found a home over there the last couple of years with Lee Majors, who was with us last night at the big Western party for the folks that don't know what we're talking about. And it's a perfect show for me. I mean, here's the boss of all of us, Mr. Canutt, and I'm on the Fall Guy, as Sunset says, and it's a show about Hollywood stuntman, so I hope it runs for 100 years.
Yeah, right.
It's a great show.
Don't forget the Kenny Rogers things you did.
It's a real great show.
Thank you.
And let's get back over to old Yak over here. Yak, you started out many years ago. You started out with Duke, didn't you?
Boots?
No, Duke, John Wayne.
Oh, John Wayne, yes. In fact, I was working at the Republic when they spoke of Wayne, and we'd been hearing of him for a time, so they got him to come over. In fact, I brought him over, and introduced him, and they decided to take him on. From then on, we went. John was a real nice fellow to work with, too. I had a lot of fun with him.
I heard a story one time that you boys, you played that joke on him out there. Would you like to tell us about it? The time that I think you had old Charlie King out there with a book, you know, writing down everything the Duke done, and you told him that you told the Duke that Charlie King was a stooge for Yates.
Yeah, we always had some kind of a gag going.
Would you like to tell? Can you remember that and tell us about it?
Well, that actually, I pretty well forgot that. However, I recall Wayne kind of getting up in the air. In fact, he come in here fighting me over it. I had a hard time getting the thing straightened out.
Oh my.
You'd always get him straightened out and go again.
Yeah, they'd played a stunt, you know, with Yak and Charlie King, you know, and that's when the Duke was first starting, and so Yak, he goes over to Duke, you know, and he said, "You see that little guy over there?" He said, "You better watch him." He said, "He's a stooge for Mr. Yates, you see." Well, old Charlie King, he had a little book out and a little pad, and everything Duke could do, he'd write it in this pad, you know, and put this pad in his pocket. And Duke, he kept watching him back and forth, you know, and he got to believe it. And then he was about ready to whip old Yak over. I tell you, you know, things like that don't happen nowadays, though, do they, Neil? They don't happen like that on the set you're doing now, do they?
Nowadays it's more of a business. There's no camaraderie much anymore. It's just grind them out and get them on the air. You hardly ever have time for relaxation and practical jokes like it used to be just a few years ago. It's all run by corporate heads anymore. It's not as much fun as it was. Still a great business, don't misunderstand me, but not the camaraderie.
And I tell you one about Charlie King. He was on a picture with me called Black Hawk. And, you know, those serials, there's one fight after the other all the time. And he'd peek around a corner and he'd look as mean as could be. Well, he'd scare anybody, you see. But he had a heart of gold. I mean, he was a softy, and he'd always think of something funny to do on somebody else. But he came in one morning to work after a hard day's work previously, you know. The day previous, we did fight after fight after fight. He came in the next morning and he's very downhearted. And I said, "What's the matter, Charlie?" He says, "Oh, I don't feel good." And I said, "Well, is it something we said or something we did?" He says, No, it wasn't that. He says, "Geez, I went home last night. You know what a good day we had yesterday? We had those fights and we went off all day long. They were beautiful fights. I went home and I was telling my wife, I was saying, 'Honey, we had the greatest day. All those fights were terrific.'" He said, and she says to me, "Charlie, please be careful in those fights. Don't get hurt." She was awfully sweet and nice, you know. He says, "Oh, honey, you can't get hurt in those fights." He says, "Why, hey, when we throw a here, stand right there." He says, "When we throw a punch, here's how we do it." He says, "I hauled off, and she moved at the wrong time, and I hit her right in the butt. I knocked her as cold as a cucumber. This after she fixed me a nice dinner with a martini waiting for me." He says, "Oh, I feel bad." He says, "I feel terrible."
That's a good one, Kirk. Yeah, lean on it.
I got to tell you this about old Charlie. It brought up one. We did a show, I don't know, some kind of charity show in Oklahoma City. A Heart Fund show or something, and Charlie didn't like to fly in an airplane, you know. And he said, "Sunset," he said, "how you going back?" I said, "I'm driving back." He said, "You care if I ride with you?" I said, "No, not at all." So we drove out of Oklahoma City on 66 up towards Amarillo. We got about 50 miles, and old Charlie got hungry. He said, "Let's pull off the road here someplace and get something to eat." So we pulled off the road in a little town called Hinton, and it's not much bigger than this town with a dirt street and everything, you know, on a wood sidewalk. And we spotted a nice, clean little restaurant, and we walked in and we sat down at the counter, you know. And the waitress come out and she gave Charlie a look like that, and she looked at me and kind of nodded and smiled. And so we ordered her breakfast, and she brought over and she set my plate down just nice and easy, and she just threw old Charlie's at him, just like throwing it at a mad dog, you know. Old Charlie, he kind of looked up at you with that mustache, you know, and he kind of winked like that, you know, as if it went on all the time. So he went ahead and ate, you know, and he left her a tip, you know. And we got out and we was parked, 50, 60 feet up the street. So we was on the sidewalk, we were walking towards the car, and here come two little boys up. He was about 10, 11 years old, you know. And they got up about, 7, 8 foot of them, and the other one of them nudged the other, and he said, "That's that back shooting SOB, let's get him." Well, they jumped off the street and they got rocks and they started throwing at Charlie. Charlie made a dead run for the car. I did too, and we got in and took off. But that was about the funniest thing that ever happened to me.
That's funny, it happens.
Max, I bet you can tell some good ones when you was out with old Frog. You know, Max over here, he drawed all of our comic books, Yak.
What?
Max over here drew all of our comic books. He drew Gene Autry's first comic book, and he drew mine, and just about all of them. And yeah, you drew some Superman, and
Yeah, we had Tex Ritter left both boys up in his room with me in Tyler, Texas, and I was supposed to be drawing one of Smiley's books, and I was behind on deadline, and the two boys were raising Cain, so I started drawing them pictures, and old Smiley says, "Hey, Max, hey, Smiley, you think he's going to be able to finish that deadline?" And over here says, "Well, he's got the two little boys up there, and I ain't heard nothing out of them. I'll go up and check." So he goes up and goes back down the elevator, and he says, "Froggy ain't got nothing to really worry about. He's behind on your book. He's up there drawing a Mickey Duck and Donald Mouse."
All right.
We got the book out, and old Frog was happy. But there was a lot of interesting times, and they always looked at me like a big kid. I guess still am one, you know. Frog was too.
that was great. Hey, good. Monty, it's about time you told us one over there.
Well,
I know that you've had a lot happen to you in the business.
I'm a good listener and a good whittler, but I'll tell you what. I love to hear Eddie Dean sing Sunny San Juan. How's it go, Eddie? Give me one little hunk of it. On the banks.
On your
Oh, my God.
Carry this message to her.
Baba.
Yeah, you know, Gene Autry had that in his publishing company and let it go years ago. And I think he's been a little sick about it ever since. It's a little early for me to sing, you know.
That is one of the
afternoon.
One of the greatest songs that I've ever heard in my life.
Well, I'm glad you like it. You know, Glenn Strange had the idea, and he tried to do it on the air when he was with the Arizona Wranglers. And I was working on a hop-along picture up at Lone Pine, and that evening after the show, after the shooting, we were in the hotel lobby, and Pop Sherman said, "Eddie, get your guitar and sing for us." So I got my old Martin still have over there, and I started to sing, and I sang a whole bunch of songs. The group sitting around in the lobby, and Glenn come over and he said, "Hey, I got a song I've been trying to finish. Would you go up to the room and help me finish it out?" And I said, "Sure." So we go up to the room, and it was 1942, and I helped him finish the song and did it on the record. And it's one of my biggest songs. And I wanted Marty Robbins to do it before he left us. And I never got him to really settle down. He said, "Well, I don't know, Eddie. You know, I had a good record on it." And it's like when Marty did El Paso. I never learned to do El Paso. I love the song, but you couldn't compete with Marty Robbins on El Paso. It was just impossible. So you go out and you get on the stage and do it, and they compare you with him right away, you're dead, you know. So you got to have a little sense, you know. You got to, right?
Eddie, I want to ask you one question. When did you write, "One has my name and the other," how's it go?
The other has my heart.
Yeah.
With one I'll remain. That's how my heartache starts.
Go ahead.
One has brown eyes, the other's eyes are blue.
Bring it in.
To one I am tied, to the other I am true.
Oh, that's enough of that. Good. I'm telling you, that's great.
Doesn't need a guitar.
That's beautiful. That man can go.
Why do you use a guitar? You don't need it.
Isn't it the truth? It's sickening.
48, we wrote that.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's
Dearest,
beautiful.
you know, she came up with the title.
Dearest, oh, hey.
She we talked about it for about 5 or 6 years.
Uh-huh.
And Hal Blair and I were out in my studio, and we were rewriting a song that a lady by the name of Gervin had written, called me Wake Me in the Morning by the Swanee River.
Yeah.
It's one of those upbeat things, called Jolson, you know. And Dearest came out and says, I got the title. I said, wait a minute, honey, we're right in the middle of this. And I had my old tape recorder that they used to use on BBC. The first one come out, Sound Mirror, I guess they call it. And she said, but I got the title. And I said, what title? She says, one has my name, the other has my heart.
There you go.
So she and Hal Blair and I wrote that and had it on the tape within 15 minutes. Never, not one part of the tune was changed, not one lyric was changed.
The rest is history.
The rest is history. It's been recorded 57 times by 57 top record artists.
That's right.
Ah,
I just
Eddie,
got a
that's
big
good.
check the other day.
Bless you, Art.
You know,
Hal got his.
And the title of that song that you and Glenn Strange wrote.
On the banks of the sunny San Juan. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I went by the, I was a little late, but we went on tour, Dearest and I, and I was booked in San Juan, on the San Juan River. And I got out, they had the sign there, and I had a picture made, you know, by the river. And I wanted to put it on the cover of the music. But by the time we got back off the road, they'd already put it out, so I was a little bit late. But it is a pretty song, and I did it, I think I had 3 different records on it myself. And I did it in 2 different pictures because they insisted, the mail come in, so they insisted that we do it again in another picture. Kind of ridiculous, I thought. So we wrote, Glenn and I said, well, let's don't use it anymore, let's write another song. So we wrote one called By the Sands of the Rio Grande. It's almost the same, but it's we stole from our own song. You can do that, you know. You can steal from yourself.
They'll allow you to do that.
Yeah, you're allowed to do that. You're not allowed to steal from anybody else. Of course, today there's only 8 notes plus the chromatics. It's pretty difficult to write a song, a melody, without stealing somebody's. You don't intend to do it, but it's almost impossible to write a melody without stealing.
that's great, Eddie. You know, we haven't heard from Peggy Stewart over here. And Peggy, I know you don't talk very much, but have you got any good stories to tell about Alan Lane or Lash LaRue, Tex Ruder, Johnny Mac Brown,
Art Dillard.
Art Dillard?
She could ride horses better than any of those.
Well, by gum, I'll tell you one thing. When Lash would fling that old whip out there to rake you in, you know, he didn't burn me. I know one tall, lanky gonzo, used to have black hair with a black hat, I'm sitting next to now. Says, oh, come on, Peg, don't need a stunt man for this. I'll do it. I said, Mickey, don't do that now. I mean, it's the longest snake whip I ever saw in my life. Yak, where were you? And so I said, I don't think we're going to do that. He said, you just run right on out there, honey, and don't worry about a thing. I'll whip it right around there, and, you know, it won't be tight. I looked like a damn zebra for about 10 weeks. I'll tell you. It was something else.
I told you to talk about somebody else.
I started off with Lash. I mentioned that.
Well, yeah, but you could have went into Alan.
But you make the best stories of all.
Oh, guys. You know, we're going to have to kind of close off here for about 2 seconds for the station break. And ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you've enjoyed this portion of the Sunset Carson Nostalgia Theater. Till we see you again, so long, goodbye, and may God bless you. Bye now.